What's up, guys and gals? Welcome to Weekend Review, our Sunday series, although it's Monday right now. I will explain in a moment. Just one moment. I will explain. We just got to finish the intro first. Welcome back to the Nerdcastle Weekend Review, where we hang out for a little while and just talk about anything that's happened over the course of the last week. I've been trying to shorten these down and get them to just pop a little bit more, and so I'm hoping that I'm starting to veer in, or at least if I'm not veering in, I'm actually driving straight towards the process a little bit more successfully in concurrent video. I think I'm getting closer to the mark, but I'd like to get these down to 10-15 minutes, but I don't know. I got motor mouth, so unfortunately it doesn't go so well. This week we're going to be talking about Mick jobs and job shaming, which I guess this was sort of spawned by, I heard somebody use the phrase, "Do you know who I am?" the other day. And really, that's sort of like a trigger phrase for assholes. If somebody uses that sentence, everybody in the room automatically knows that they're just a dick. If you're trying to pin the wrinkle on the sphincter, that is the phrase right there that will guide you to the most special sphincter of choice within the room. And so I heard somebody use that phrase while we were up at Costco or somewhere anyways, and it just sort of got me thinking about the way certain jobs are interpreted within society and why some people seem to think that they're elevated above others, and why they seem to do their best to apply the boots mild style or medium style or even extra spicy style to those that they perceive as being below their station. Now, obviously, this is something that has existed since the dawn of time. You can go back to Babylonian times, and I'm sure back then there was some rich guy at Babylonian Costco being like, "Do you know who I am? Do you see my headdress right now? This feather right here clearly indicates that you are to give me what I want, or else I shall ridicule you." I'm pretty sure it's been going on forever. But the point in talking about this is that I think it's a very, very important thing, because I want to galvanize. I want to give people a little bit of extra strength in their backbone when they go about their daily work. If they're working one of these jobs that is unpleasant and does not pay well, and you have to put up with douchebags like the one that I ran across earlier this week, I want to give you, I may not have words of inspiration, but I want to talk to everybody about why job shaming as a phenomenon needs to just vanish. We need to stop doing this as a culture. Not even as a culture, just we need to rein people in. I'm pretty sure if everybody in line had jumped on that guy simultaneously, not physically, just just let him have it or whatever. But I mean, if everybody in the line had been like, "Whoa, slow down there, speed racer. You need to calm down with the attitude," I'm pretty sure he wouldn't pull that shit anymore, because society would have made a statement at that store that they would not accept that sort of attitude towards, a person that's just trying to do their job, put clothing on their children, and go home and pay their rent so that they don't have to live out and be homeless. And so the first big problem that I see with job shaming like that, where you're just calling somebody's job a Mick job, for example, that's what they call it here. In the United States, when somebody says Mick job, it's a derogatory term, and it's typically said by somebody that's talking to somebody well, that's why you work a Mick job. You need to get some initiative or something like that. Almost always, it's sort of spit out at a person that another perceives as doing a job that's below their potential, or at least below the job that they currently occupy. And I think that's a shitty term. We should work it out of our lexicon. We should learn to be kinder to one another. And the reasons are thus. First and foremost, talking down to somebody based upon their job when they're just hustling to make ends meet is a horrible thing to do, and it has far-reaching consequences that are really to be considered. First and foremost, you're telling this person that indelibly there's no difference between them and their work. And so to differentiate that for you, I YouTube for a living. I'm a YouTuber. I love my job. It's very, very satisfying. I enjoy doing it every day. It's the coolest thing that I've ever gotten to do. I've done a lot of jobs. I've been a roofer. I've worked in retail for upwards of over half a decade. I've done a lot of random odds and ends jobs that I had to do in order to get by, and YouTubing is by far my favorite one that I have ever had. But when I turn off the microphone and I turn off the camera at the end of the day, YouTubing is not who I am. And so if somebody comes up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, you're just a goddamn YouTuber," they're trying to make a connection there between me as a person and the work that I do as I bump my mic in my righteous fury here. They're trying to make a connection between me as an individual and the job that I do. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, because I don't think any of us want to be defined by the work that we do. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. If you do jobs that are very altruistic and things like that, maybe that is what defines you. Or maybe, I don't know, building the best trailer hitch that you possibly can. Or, I don't know, refurbishing somebody's engine the best that you can. Maybe that is the thing that gives you purpose and meaning in life. But still, at the end of the day, you are different as a person than you are as a mechanic. And I'm different as a person I said that twice. I'm different as a person than I am as a YouTuber. Those two things are distinct. I go to work, I put my work hat on, I do my thing every day to earn the paycheck. that puts food on the table and pays the rent, but then I get off and I have other things when I get off work that I do that I think define me more accurately as a human being. And so when you make that connection between a person and their job, you're telling them that in some ways this is a part of them and that they're never going to be free of it because some subtle flaw within themselves is the reason why they have this job in the first place. And that is almost universally not true. Life has hills and valleys. That is life. That is the definition of life. Hills and valleys. There are going to be ups and downs, and there are going to be times when you have to swallow your pride, maybe do a job you don't want to do just to make sure that your children have shoes to put on their feet, or that the stew gets heated up for dinner, and all those sorts of things. And I think sort of like pissing down on somebody that's just trying to get their day done so that they can go home and be the actual human being, like the actual human being that they are, it's a put down that may be a little too much for somebody that actually should be lauded. That's really the point that I'm trying to get out right here. There are a lot of opportunities for people to do things that are unsavory in order to make ends meet. I've known people my entire life that'll be out on a corner moving zones and ounces and things like that. They make more in a weekend, 2 days, just kind of like hustling around, running around, than, you know, somebody that has a legitimate job at McDonald's or whatever makes in 2 weeks entirely. And I've seen one person talk down about the other based on their profession. And I think people that actually sign up for bad jobs, like jobs that they don't enjoy, that they're only doing out of necessity and desperation, they should definitely be celebrated, because honestly, I've woke up every single day and done that terrible job where you get up at 9 in the morning, you think to yourself, oh my God, here it goes again. I've got to sit through this shitty job all day, every day. It's not gratifying work. It's not work that I'm happy with. It's not work that lets me blossom. But you know what? There are bills to pay. Like, there's that guy at the beginning of every month who shows up with his hand out, even though you have no idea where he came from in the first place. He's got his hand out and he's got embroidery on his shirt that says that you owe him money somehow. And you're like, all right, well, here's your cut for the month, I guess. And I know what that feels like. And having that guy come in and tell you there's something wrong with you based on the job that you have, when really you should be celebrated for doing that job, is just sort of like the icing on the shit-covered cake. It really is. It is the worst. And so my point in this video right now is to tell people to be kind to each other. Just try not to use any of those buzzwords that I've talked about up until this point, like, do you know who I am? That's why you have a Mick job. Like, all of those phrases just need to be wiped out and never used again. Somebody's job is not who they are. It's just a means to an end. Just because you're a little bit further along in your... I'm going to go this way on the camera. Just because you're a little bit further along in your journey than they are does not make you better. Just because you're going forward does not mean someone else is going better. And it definitely doesn't give somebody the right to browbeat another human being who is in a different stage of their journey. And so that's ultimately the message that I wanted to get out there today. I heard somebody job shame earlier this week, and it really surprised me that they just kind of like got away with it and like walked away, and there was no big, like, you could tell people in line were uncomfortable. But I think we all need to make a decision together that when you see this happening, the first step is just to be like, hey man, calm down, leave dude alone. Like, he's sitting over here slinging hot dogs, and you're making his day even worse. He's doing everything he can to make your life better right now, or at least get the transaction done so that you can both part ways and just go home and do whatever it is you do. But just like we need to get in the habit of calling people out on this shit. And I realize it's difficult because hip hop and music and pop, you listen to any song or like anything on the radio right now from any sort of like prominent celebrity, and half of them are talking about, oh, that's why you need to get your money up so that you can be somebody and so that you can take from other people and so that you aren't like a bitch anymore, like all this other stuff. And I'm like, come on, man. Money is not all that's important in life. When you think about success in life, I don't even think money really factors in. Honestly, the relationships that we hold and the ability for ourselves to create positivity around ourselves is really, truly the test of whether someone has lived a successful life or not. It's not whether you get remembered. It's not your bank account balance. It's not the job or the important thing that you do or like the letters after your name that denote the title that you have. It's your capability to project positivity around yourself and make other people feel happier about themselves simply by nature of you existing. That's the test of success in my mind. It has nothing to do with pecuniary advantage or having big bank stacks. And honestly, I think that with pop culture, it tries to reinforce this trend that money is all that matters and that jobs are all that matter. And you got to get the good job so you can have the big screen TV so that you don't feel like a punk or whatever it is. And I really, really wish that mentality would go away. And if all I could do is make kind of like a video about somebody being job shamed publicly and just be like, listen, we should all just kind of like sit down right here and now on the internet and be like, so when we see this happening, do we all make an agreement to just like call that guy out on it together and just be like, hey man, Not in my community, not here. Everybody's the same here. Your job doesn't matter at the end of the day. We're all human beings just trying to swim down the river of life, maybe swimming upriver, depending on how bad your life is going right now. I mean, I remember the trend was worse. Like, I would do jobs that sucked, and people would remind me that I was doing a job that sucked constantly, which is one of the things I hated most about working in retail, is just how frequently people were just like, you suck at life. I hated that. Like, you would go to work and you just be doing your best to sling movies or, whatever it was. I worked at Blockbuster for a long time, and after that I worked at Best Buy for a long time. And it was just like, it was amazing to me how constantly people would come in and be like, you have a shitty job because it's your fault. And I'm like, well, actually, I just kind of have bills to pay, and because I work full time here trying to make ends meet, I don't have time to go to like the JC or like do extra stuff. Like, I pretty much work all day every day. Like, I guess I take like a night class on weekends because that's the best I could do, but like, there's too much stuff going on in order to make life work. And so it always amazed me how many people there were when you were trying to come up that are just like trying so hard to push you back down. And I wanted to, like, I guess offer some words of comfort to everybody and sort of just maybe think that we can all rally together on the same cry, that it's not okay to sort people by their job title or their social class. We're all human beings. We need to stick together to show solidarity and all this. Like, if somebody messes up my order at a restaurant, I went to a restaurant the other night. In fact, I have an example for you right here in the way that I prefer to see people act, and I try to do these things myself. I went to a restaurant. I was a waiter and a busser for a while too. I went to a restaurant. We got seated. 15 minutes went by, and nobody came by to check on us, get drinks, take an order, really even like drop off menus or anything. So I go up to the front, and I said, hey, I think we got forgot about back there. Maybe we got seated in the wrong area. I used to be a waiter, so I know how this works. If you could just like send somebody over, it's all good. And so when the waiter came over, it was apparent that like maybe maybe his boss had chewed him out or something. I don't know. I think he got he got seated in a section that wasn't his, is what I'm pretty sure happened. I'm pretty sure the host is messed up and seated us in a place that had no coverage. And so he came over. He was very, very apologetic. And I really went out of my way to be like, don't worry about it, man. You don't need to hustle any harder right now. Like, I get it. I used to be a busser and a waiter. I understand you got sat in a section that wasn't even yours. You didn't even know we were here, so it's not your fault. Just, it's all chill. We're all good. I just wanted to make somebody aware of it. And that's the sort of like mutual respect I think we should all show to each other when we're in these sorts of situations. It's very easy to get angry and frustrated and be like, well, why me? I deserve better than this, and to take it out on those people that are doing the jobs that, get them through the day and get them through the month. But just be kind to one another, I suppose, is the ultimate takeaway from talking about this. Don't use the word make jobs. Don't talk down to people. Don't say things like, do you know who I am? That person's just trying to do a job. Be chill and let them be chill and kind, and let's encourage each other. If you're at the point in life where you have to work a shitty job for a little while in order to get by, that's all good, and I respect you for it because I've been there, and I understand entirely how difficult it is to get up in the morning sometimes when you have a shit job that you just hate all day long, but it provides a paycheck, and that's that. You get your paycheck, and you do your best to be happy outside of work. And so I hope that at least this has helped in some way. I don't know. I feel like this was sort of like a rambler. I tried to structure it out, but I really wasn't sure what I wanted to say about the whole thing aside from like, don't job shame. And I was like, well, damn, that took like 1.7 seconds. How am I going to keep this going for like 15, 20 minutes? Let's get on to our Q&A. I think I've made my point. I really sort of think that we've touched on the thing that's important here for us all to treat each other with respect, regardless of the job that we occupy. Just, change our thinking a little bit. Don't let pop culture get to you and tell you that you're more entitled to abuse somebody because you've got a bigger paycheck, and you are not entitled to be abused because you get a lower paycheck or you do a job that people call like a Mick job or whatever. You hang in there, you do you, and remember that it's all building towards something. Even if you're unemployed, it's all building towards something right now. I remember that too. I was unemployed for a while, and damn, people talk down to you so hard when you're it used to drive me nuts. I'd be like, I'm filling out job applications like every single day. I'm going to interviews like every day, and yet people would constantly treat me like I was a deadbeat when I was unemployed. I was like, I got pink slipped. What do you want me to do? I got laid off, and now I'm putting in applications. I'm checking the monster. I'm out there, but I don't really have any qualifications aside from like a high school degree. It's tough hustling out here now that all the factories shut down and all the unions are dead. It's tough hustling. I just remember people used to treat me like a deadbeat. So even if you're unemployed right now, it's all building towards something. Believe me, if you don't have anybody in your life right now to tell you that, don't let anybody talk down to you about being unemployed. Don't let them do that. Just make sure that you're setting things up. You're in a transitional period right now, and it's all going to be okay. A little bit of hard work and a little bit of just like pound on through. It's all going to be good. Let's do our Q&A section because I feel like I'm rambling at this point, and I really have. What's your favorite song from Les Miserables? What do you serenade Lady Splat with or wish to? Honestly, I sing random songs like all day, everything. My falsetto thing where I'm like, I do it like 24 hours a day. Like, that's why I started integrating it into the channel. It's because I thought it was weird that for years and years and years I never did it. Like, I kind of kept it away. I figure I scared some people off, but at the same time, you know, I don't know. It's a big enough part of my life where I do it frequently enough where I started slowly. I do it more on the stream because I think the stream is more conducive to being like high energy and being explosive. But I work it in every now and again on YouTube. And I think I've been trying to like keep the perfect balance. Like too much, people get tired of it. Not enough, you get lots of requests for it. So I'm trying to find the sweet spot. But I serenade just about anything, to be honest, whether or not it's like current pop music or whatever. It's just anything that's stuck in my head as of recently that I will serenade Lady Splat with. My favorite song from Les Miserables is the one where Javert, he confronts Jean Valjean, or he confronts, I think that's actually when Jean Valjean is still masquerading as Monsieur Le Maire, and he comes in right after, oh, what's her name? The girl with the shaved head, right after she dies. And Valjean is like pledging that he's going to look after her daughter and make sure that nothing bad ever happens again because he's wealthy and he can affect the world positively. And so my favorite song is that one right there, the confrontation between the two of them where Javert comes in, Valjean, we see each other plain. I like that one. That one's the song right there. I don't know all the words, but that one, every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah. And then the second half of the question, Do You Hear the People Sing, is a pretty dope track too. I'm surprised it hasn't been mixed into something yet. Let's see here. Have you ever read Metro 2033? I have not. I've played the game though. So does that count? It's kind of like seeing the movie version of a book. I don't know if it totally counts. But yeah, let's see here. What else do we have? Mass Effect 2. Will you do a Mass Effect 2 playthrough? Probably not. That's pretty doubtful. I doubt that there's an audience for it right now, and unfortunately the channel's not big enough to where I can float like older playthroughs yet. Maybe someday when the channel continues to grow, I'll be at the point where essentially older games are kind of a tricky thing on YouTube. Older games are very, very tricky because you're either expected to be like god of that game because it's been out for so long that you have to hit all the Easter eggs, do all the secret stuff, 100% completion, and even then there's not really a guaranteed viewership after like the first 4 or 5 episodes. And so doing older games is something that really only bigger channels or incredibly well edited entertaining channels can manage. So the channels that I would say right there is like Game Grumps, for example, where they can play just about whatever because they have a huge fan base at this point, so it doesn't really matter. Or like Total Biscuit, I'd be if he wanted to, he could probably play just about anything because his fan base is so enormous that, whatever, he could float it for a while. But for me right now, I'd be willing to bet that series would have like, the first couple episodes would be all right, and then after that it would just be like, on the old retention graph, so it is what it is. What do you think about Final Fantasy VII? Since you talk a lot about 6, I wanted to know your feelings towards 7. 7 was probably one of the more transformative games for me, along with Phantasy Star 4, where they were games where characters would die. And that was like a novel concept back then, because typically we still had superhero syndrome back then, where main characters, they always came through, like if they tried really hard. And Final Fantasy VII had a fairly innocent character just like slaughtered in the middle of it. And it destroyed, what I liked about that is it showed the psychological decay of Cloud as time went along. Like he just like lost his shit after Aerith died. Like that was it for him, and he had to rebuild himself as a man to get back out there and like be a human being again. And I really, really liked the way that it both showed him deal with the loss of the other character. I love Final Fantasy VII. I guess to get back to your question, I'm kind of ranting right here. Final Fantasy VII is a game that I liked a lot. It's a game that had a lot of like really, I still have a copy of it over on my shelf right now and was debating giving it another playthrough. Final Fantasy VII was a fantastic, probably one of the greatest JRPGs ever made, if not a little bit cliche to quote it as so. That's usually why I say Final Fantasy VI, is because Final Fantasy VI is a very special game to me, and it was one of the first Final Fantasies that I ever played. I really, really like Final Fantasy VI. I love the storyline. I love the setting. I love the characters. I love the utter hopelessness of the second half of the game. I really like the way that things just kind of go from bad to worse and how you just kind of have to piece it back together and stop Kefka from winning. But Final Fantasy VII was a fantastic game too. Honestly, I really like 5, 6, 7, 8. And then after that, I kind of fell off with Final Fantasy. I didn't enjoy 9 that much, although 9 was playable. 10 was okay. 11 was an MMO. 12 was eh. And then I haven't played anything after that, so it might be a generational thing too, whichever the games are that I grew up with on the Super Nintendo. That's the other thing that you got to think about, is that I grew up with like Wild Arms. I grew up with, oh god, Breath of Fire 1, 2, and 3. Like, I had copies of all of those games too. Vandal Hearts, like all of those things were things that I just played the hell out of. And I don't have copies anymore. I don't have Shining Force. There's another one that I grew up playing. Lots and lots of JRPGs. But yeah, I think very, very fondly about Final Fantasy VII. And typically the reason why I choose 6 over 7 is A, for nostalgia, because it was one of the first Final Fantasies that I ever played. And then B, like when you say Final Fantasy VII is your favorite Final Fantasy, it's a really, really cliche answer. Like, a lot of people say 7. And it is a really fantastic game. It's just that I prefer to swing more towards 6 because I find the graphics to be more charming as well. And so there it is. Let's see here. I know we got more questions right here. See, they're all kind of like spread out. Like, I have them on a list right now. Most of them are game requests. So let's see. What is your snack food of choice? Ooh, there you go. When playing a game by yourself, I actually stay away from snack foods. I try to avoid snacking pretty heavily because I used to have a weight issue. I used to be really heavy, like 230 pounds or whatever. And then I lost about 100 pounds. And now I weigh about 132, 131-ish. And snack fooding is the reason why, like, I would sit and play an MMO all day and I would just like munch on stuff the entire time. I really, really, really like the sour cream and onion sun chips. Those are really like amazing. If I have, like, I love, oh my god, I love Cracker Jacks. Cracker Jacks are just like stupidly good. Black and white mix. I love black and white trail mix. If you don't know what that is, the trail mix that has it has peanuts and raisins, and it has cashews, and it'll have like random seeds, and then also the peanuts will occasionally be chocolate covered or they'll be yogurt covered, and then it's also got raisins that are chocolate covered and yogurt covered in there. I love that stuff, but I don't know. I try to stay away from snacking nowadays unless it's on something like baby carrots or something, because honestly, I'm a garbage gut, and I'll sit there and I'll clear out like an entire bag of chips in one sitting. But yeah, if I had to choose one, I'd probably say Cracker Jacks are good, but they're not good for like gaming in general. Because like Cracker Jacks, you always get like a film all over your fingers no matter what you do, and it gets your mouse all nasty. That or you got to sit there and not actually game, and then it's not like a great gaming snack. So anyways, there it is right there. Let's see. What is it about emulating that you don't like? In general, emulation, I used to emulate a lot when I was in high school. That was sort of like in the beginning when people were just starting to emulate the NES, the Genesis, the Game Boy, and the Super Nintendo. When I first started emulating, they didn't have... I remember somebody was working on a PlayStation emulator, but it wasn't quite there yet. And emulation... Save states are the first problem. There's always the temptation to use a save state in a game that otherwise does not allow you to use save states. And save states, they sort of ruin the magic of a lot of games. Now, a lot of people want to save nowadays, but part of the desperation to be better at a game when I was a kid was the fact that you had to start over from the beginning in order to get by. Now, obviously, I use save states. I'm not talking about like down about anybody that uses save states, but when I play on a console, it removes the temptation entirely so that I have to play the game like I used to when I was a kid, and it forces your skill level up higher because, you know, you have to replay these sections. Like, you start memorizing big chunks and flying through them a lot quicker. It's sort of like dash running your way through, if you will. PS1 playthroughs, I'd like to do PS1 playthroughs, but as I said earlier, I don't know if we could float it on the channel right now based on just sort of like everything is expected to be a survival game right now on the channel, and anytime I sort of like differentiate outside of that, I get punished for it slightly. And so until we get a little bit bigger, I don't think I can float older games. Emulation, the first thing is save states. Secondly, I just don't like the way it feels, and that might be due to the fact that back in the day, we didn't have USB controllers that you could just plug into your computer and then run into like SNES. What was it called back in the day? I can't even remember now. Anyways, nowadays we've got like plug-and-play controllers that you can just plug into your computer, but when I was emulating back in the day, you couldn't do that. You had to play with the keyboard, and that was the other thing I hated about it. Additionally, sometimes the sound and stuff, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know. I just don't know. But I don't enjoy emulating. I used to do it a lot, but nowadays it's a great way to experience things that like you couldn't experience during your time. But yeah, let's see here. I've enjoyed... Regardless, I haven't caught all your episodes. Oh, here we go. The question is up top. Anyways, my question. What Asian, European, non-American food do you enjoy? Honestly, I eat a lot of Chinese food, but it's sort of... I eat Chinese food pretty frequently. Everything from, I mean, honestly, just about anything that you would find at any Japanese or Chinese. I've been trying to expand out into sashimi and like sushi and things like that, but really haven't had the time or the money lately. But I love Chinese food, any type of chow mein, any type of teriyaki, any type of sweet and sour, any type of like, oh, I don't know, mushroom chicken, anything you want to throw at me. I really sincerely like just about everything, with Chinese food, so long as it doesn't have like peanuts in with like other, I don't know, it throws me off the peanuts sometimes. Like you'll have like a dish that I really really like, but it'll have peanuts like in it somewhere. I don't know, I like peanuts and I like Chinese food, but when they cross the two, it doesn't do something for them. I don't know what switch that it flicks, but it definitely flicks one. As far as European food, I'm not really super educated along those lines. I don't really eat like French food or like Spanish food or anything like that because we don't really have that in California. Like in California, the majority of the restaurants you're going to see in the Bay Area are going to be Middle Eastern, Indian, Chinese, a lot of Mexican food, and then just like Mel's Diner type stuff where they have like burgers, shakes, and fries and stuff like that. So occasionally you'll get something that comes across with like soul food, like a chicken and waffles type place that's really, really good. But as far as Asian food goes, I love Chinese food. I really do. I had a friend when I was growing up who was Laotian, and her mom used to cook all kinds of Laotian food, and so I enjoyed eating various things from there. I don't really remember what they were called anymore, but there were like egg roll things that were really, really good that she used to make all the time. There was a number of like interesting sort of like cooked, like boiled salad dishes and things. They're good though. I don't remember what they were called because this is back when I was 12 or 13, but I enjoyed them. I really, really love Hawaiian food. Everything from, shabu shabu. In fact, you bring a lot of those up here, musubi and loco moco and all those kinds of stuff. Yep, familiar with all of them. I love Mexican food of all kinds. Any Mexican food, like just as long. Actually, I can't do menudo actually, but I think I may have just had bad menudo. Is what it comes down to. The one time that I tried menudo, it's the only Mexican food I've ever tried that I was just like, nope, can't do it. But the menudo that I had, it tasted like a cow smelled. And so I don't know if that's normal for menudo. I should probably try it again at like different restaurants in different places, or better yet, have one of my friends' moms cook it on up for me, and I bet it'll be a whole lot better. But yeah, I haven't actually, a lot of the foods that you bring up, I haven't actually had. I really, really, I don't get outside I eat a lot of Mexican food, and that's pretty much like what I subsist on. So you bring up a lot of different foods over here, everything from like bulgogi on over to like Vegemite and borscht and things like that. So your pierogi, borscht, yeah. I've never had borscht. I've had pierogi, I think. I love bratwurst. Bratwurst and beer are like one of the finest things in life. It's part of summer living. Like you gotta have beers and brats if it's the summer. That's like a memory from when I was a kid where we would have big like block party barbecues and we would have bratwurst and beers. Not the kids, obviously, but the adults would. And as I grew up, it was something that I looked forward to, and I'm glad to say that it didn't disappoint. How do you choose what games to play? Do you rely on viewer suggestions, or do you just pick stuff randomly? It's a weird process, but it's one that I've refined. It's kind of like an amorphous, blobby process that the refinement is in the blob. Like it starts out almost as like this inkwent, gassy mass, and then over time, I've got it sort of like into a liquid state right now. But it's a little bit of everything. So first and foremost, I find games that look interesting to me. If a game doesn't look interesting to me, I don't care how many like requests I get. I'm not going to play it because I can't like force myself to be excited about a game that I just don't care about. It sounds harsh, but it's the truth. I want my heart to be in it when I play a game. Because if my heart is in the game, it makes it easier for me to make light of situations and have fun with it. Viewer suggestions, I do. When people send me game suggestions, I find out about new games. Actually, I used to have to dig through like all kinds of random databases and stuff like itch.io and things to figure out what games were coming out. But now actually people alert me, like the 4chan and like the Reddit community, like people that are involved in those communities, because I personally am not. People who are involved in those communities that are really, really deeply dug into gaming and stuff that know about the new hit things before anybody knows about them tend to send me emails and be like, hey, have you seen this? And then I'll check that out, and if it's something I'm interested in, then I'll give it a play, and if I like that, then we'll get going. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, first and foremost, I look at if I'm going to enjoy the game or if it's subject matter that I care about, if I think there's going to be viewer support. So there can be a survival game, that's fine, that has no viewership and nobody knows about it. It's not going to get like any views aside from like kind of the views from my frequent viewers. So it'll get like 10,000 views from my audience, and that's that. And I can do that, but you have to be careful about it too once you're paying your bills with YouTube, because if you have like 4 of those series running at the same time, it's okay to have 1 or 2 of those, but you can stock yourself up on low-hitting series and then be stuck in them for like a long time. And that actually happened to me over not last summer, but kind of, I guess, right before summer. I was in a situation like that where it got bad, where our numbers were really low, and it was like, I need to like change things around. I'm the kind of person that obsesses about it, but it's a little bit of everything. Basically, find a game that I want to play, evaluate whether there's a viewership for it. If there's not, can I float it while other series kind of like keep the channel's head above water? If we're already doing a couple of those series, maybe I'll shift it off to the side and put it on a list until we have a couple of other series that can keep it on, kind of like drag it behind the boat for a little bit just in case. And then that's pretty much it. in general, I used to focus on stuff that no one else is covering to the point where I would Google it and I would see that if there was any content. But now that my channel's gotten larger, I can actually compete with some of the other bigger channels. So I don't really worry too much about nobody else doing it right now. I just kind of like get out there and do my thing. Let's see here. If Splattercat was in an Astartes chapter, which chapter would he be in? It's a tough call. It's a tough call. My inner Mary Sue and my desire for attention would say Ultramarines. But then again, the other half of me that really likes the Salamanders would probably say the Salamanders. And the Salamanders don't get nearly enough love, so I'm going to rep them for right now. I'm going to rep them. I'm going to rep them. If Creative Assembly released a Warhammer RTS, would you play it? Yeah, I probably would. I'm not a big RTS guy, but I like Warhammer 40k enough to where I would probably do it. Let's see here. Well, I think that just... Oh, what micro? That's an easy one right there. What microphone do you use to record? It sounds good. It's an AT2020. It's an XLR AT20, although AT2020 from Audio-Technica. I think it's probably the best microphone you can get for $100. Like, if you have $100 to spend, I would probably go with the AT2020, the USB or the XLR variant, depending on where you want to go. A lot of people are using blue microphones today, and I would actually urge against using blue microphones. They're overly sensitive. The gain is too high on them no matter like what you do with them. They've got a native hiss that comes through no matter what you do, and you've got to clean it up afterwards in post-production, which then takes like a weird edge. It takes one of the tones out of your voice. Blue microphones are entry-level microphones. There's a reason that people that work in recording studios don't talk about blue, but they do talk about Audio-Technica. And so Audio-Technica is well respected as an entry-level microphone in the recording world and in the home recording industry. And so since they're in the same price region, I'd usually go with Audio-Technica over blue. My next microphone is going to be a Shure SM7B. And the SM7B was actually the microphone that was used to record the Thriller album. It was used to record a bunch of important albums, and it's a really nice microphone, and it's probably the last one we'll ever need for the channel. It's a little bit more expensive, but it'll bring the audio levels up. But there's the answer to your question right there. Where do you get your earrings? I get my earrings from a website called, well, there's two places, King's Body Jewelry, and if King's Body Jewelry doesn't have it, there's a cheaper website called bodyartforms.com. Bodyartforms.com, the quality is a little bit more suspect. Like when you go to King's Body Jewelry, you pay a little bit more money, but everything there is like a well-respected like glass blowing company or like a well-respected stone carving company. It is more expensive, but it's higher quality. And then Body Art Forms, it's kind of hit or miss. Like they're a surplus store. Like I think they get the surplus from other places or leftover from warehouses. And so sometimes you get really good stuff from them at a good price, and sometimes you get really bad stuff from them at a dirt cheap price. It just sort of depends. Those are the two places that I get, bodyartforms.com and King's Body Jewelry. That's going to be it for this week. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at our weekend review. I hope you enjoyed it. I do like doing these videos. I know that they don't get necessarily the view counts that a lot of our other stuff gets, but I enjoy making the videos, and I don't know. It's my way to project a little bit more positivity at the end of a weekend, maybe help somebody get through and talk about something that matters. So anyways, I'll see y'all later. Give some thought to the whole job shaming thing. Add your thoughts down below. Feel free to leave me Q&A questions. This is where I get them from. So if you send me a Q&A question in the comments down below, that's your best chance of getting it answered in the next week's video. I keep it open on one screen while I work on the other one and I record this. I will see you all later. Hi to everybody. I'll be back next Sunday.